Hello, everyone. And I just want to say to our very special guest, it is our honor and privilege to be speaking today with Dr. Michelle Josephson. She is the current president of the American Society of Nephrology. She's a professor and also the program director of transplant nephrology. This is the extremely non exhaustive list of her various achievements. We are so happy to have you, ma'am, and all of us at Indian Society of Nephrology are so happy that you're joining us for our conference in Kolkata.
I'm thrilled to be joining you as well. I can't wait, and I'm really excited to see everyone there and also to visit. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I wanted to start with, is this your first trip to India? Have you been?
I have been actually pre-pandemic.
Oh,
I had an opportunity to go to a conference in Mumbai, and but I really was so excited. I wanted to travel around a little bit, so I went to Delhi and I went to Agra,
oh, so
and so
nice.
it was really. I just had a marvelous time and absolutely loved everything I saw. So I'm very excited to return, and I've never been to Calcutta, so I'm super excited to go.
Oh, nice. And so do you have any plans, any parts of the country that you're going to be covering this time or just like,
Well, unfortunately, I can't stay as long this time, so I'm not going to travel. But I'm looking forward to just, seeing the local area. So
oh,
I'm
that's
very excited
nice.
about that.
I'm sure a lot of us will be excited to like be your local guide. So please count on all of us to show you around.
I
Um,
love that.
so, ma'am, for first, just for personal benefit, as a mid-career nephrologist myself, like I just want to tell you, you're a role model for a lot of us. Like,
Oh,
as like a woman nephrologist, special like a transplant specialist, and also like the president of ASN. So, are there like any career like turning points or any special tips you have for all of us on how to get there?
well, I mean, this may sound a little trite, but I think it's really true, which is to do what you enjoy. And for me, it was transplant. And to be totally honest about this, when I entered the field, transplant nephrology was really almost a non-existent area. And most of when I started in my fellowship, most everything was focused on dialysis or chronic kidney disease. But um, when I rotated through the transplant floors and I had an opportunity to work with patients and learn a bit more about the immunology, I so loved it. And it sort of surprised my mentors a little bit because this wasn't really a career path that they had experience with or a career path that they knew. But I have to say, to their credit, they were wonderful mentors, and to their credit, they found a way for me to go forward in this pathway. And the other wonderful, I mean, this may sound a little counterintuitive, and I would suggest this no matter your interest, but the wonderful thing for me was that because there really weren't a lot of local mentors. I mean, there were wonderful immunologists here, and that really taught me a lot. And most of the clinicians were fantastic, but they weren't really transplant nephrologists. So in a way, it forced me, and I'm actually an introvert by just my personality, but it really forced me to reach out and to meet people across the country and across the world, because I was very interested in transplant and I wanted to really learn as much as I could. So I went to transplant meetings, I met different people. Nephrology is such a wonderful field, and people are so welcoming that they really, embraced me and taught me. So I would say that to me, one of the most important things is not just your mentors in where you're working, but it's really making the effort to try to meet people nationally, internationally, because you can learn so much from people. And people are so willing in nephrology. They're just so willing to teach and to really educate you about the field. So I would
Yeah.
say, my big take homes are do what you love and don't be afraid. And in fact, I encourage you to reach out through meetings, through different groups within the organizations. Organizations are fantastic things.
Yeah.
They give you so many opportunities. Reach out.
Wow, that's excellent advice. Thank you, ma'am. I think that's and also very doable, if we really have passion for it. Thank you. And then, because of your interest in transplant and your significant expertise in it, you're talking about BKV nephropathy, and that's something here we face a lot. So, I was like, we all like BKV is like a topic all everybody in the transplant field is aware of. Are there any specific areas in BKV where you think our knowledge, there are holes and in our knowledge, and that some research can be done in those areas?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up because it is such an important issue. And I mean, BK affects so many of our patients. I think we don't really have a great understanding of who is going to, who is susceptible and who's not. And consequently, we have to really know you have to screen. But I'm sure that there are, and even though we have, some sense of who's more at risk and who's not, it's not that definitive. And so you can't really know. I think one of the biggest areas in gaps, there are certainly several gaps. One of the biggest gaps is effective treatment. We really, even though BK's been around for my entire career, and it's a real problem, and we've gotten better with managing it because we do screen and we identify it earlier. But nevertheless, I think it's a big problem, and effective treatments are a huge gap, as well as when we do modify immunosuppression. What is the appropriate amount? When do we know that a person that we've changed immunosuppression on is not going to then go to develop antibody-mediated rejection, for example, or something like that? So we just don't have the tools. So there are a number of gaps. I would say both knowing who's really susceptible, knowing most effective treatments, and when we do modify immunosuppression, knowing how much and what is the appropriate level to which we should modify.
Absolutely, ma'am. You're absolutely right. So now what's interesting is a lot of our centers here don't end up screening for BK because of the cost issue. So I think it's like for us a diagnosis most of exclusion when, everything and the graph shows something, and that's when we go reverse from graph to screening for BK. So yeah, so there's an interesting difference in practice between the two countries as well. So I think maybe some kind of common collaboration and research in the future.
You bring up a really important point. I think the cost of screening is really high. You're 100% right. And I can't agree with you more. And I also think that's why knowing, having better way to identify who is really at risk would help us both reduce costs where screening is done, and also where screening is not possible, be able to help people before it gets to be too late.
That's true. Okay. Thank you for that, ma'am. Another thing was, as the president of American Society of Nephrology and your big conferences upcoming, good luck for that. Do you think there are ways that you see that the two societies, the Indian and the American societies, could collaborate more? Are there ways that you suggest that we work on?
Absolutely. I think that's a great and important thing. And I know it's a real interest for the American Society of Nephrology. So I'm glad you brought this up. And I do know that we certainly have an organization in the United States in which nephrologists of Indian origin are involved, and this is a very, very big society, and it's a huge interest. So I'm glad you brought this up, because I would say the answer is absolutely. And I know we're looking forward to forging paths forward for greater collaboration, because we also at ASN have a great interest in that too.
Thank you. And I think with you at the head of the ASN and with Dr. Sham Bansal in the Indian Society, I think it's already happening because he's attending Kidney Week this year, and then you're coming over to our conference. So we're looking forward to such a collaboration, more of these efforts from both societies. Also just to let you know, like for us, ASN is like the Mecca, if I may say so. So we went, my first international paper was also, it was so overwhelming to be in this size of an international conference. And are there any tips for the organizers, because you're doing it before?
Yeah, no, I think it is to do these meetings is a huge organizational feat. You have so many people with so many interests in the audience that you need to to really speak to. And I know that for ASN, we're a big tent organization, and so we like to be as inclusive and touch on as many areas as possible. And what we do is we do give a certain number of sessions to all different areas in nephrology. Of course, if you have an interest in that area, sometimes you feel like it's not enough information. But I think it is it's a really challenging thing to organize one of these meetings and to try and include as much material and to really speak to as much as your audience as possible. But it's a lot, at the same time, it's a lot of fun. It's very exciting because you start to learn about what are the new areas in nephrology, what's late breaking, what's coming out. And so I think it's quite a hard thing to do, but it's a really worthwhile and exciting and fun thing to do to set up one of these big meetings. So it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine the stress on all of you at the top. We're like, just being cogs in the wheel. It's hard enough, like, to take care of different parts. So, all our best wishes. So, thank you so much, ma'am. Is there a message you have for the Indian society and for all the attendees who are coming, maybe about your talk or about the conference? We'd be happy to have you.
Well, I'm just very excited to meet a lot of people. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak. And so I just thank you. I feel really honored and gratified to be invited and to be able to attend. So I'm so excited about the event.